Welcome to Unbiased and On the Fence. I'm Shane. Thank you guys so much for joining, and got to be quick on my mute button there. Welcome to Michelle Wolfe for joining me today to talk some shift. You're messing with me. See, I can normally hear you. They can't hear you.
Just messing with you, you know. You're on the ball. You got it. I think you're going to be quicker on the draw today than me. That's what I was saying. I don't have like massive insights like I had the week before, so I'm not going to come charging out of the gate like I usually do.
But we have had some. Let's see here. We have had some strangeness on the Schumann. What the heck's up with that?
I don't even know. Like we were just talking. I found that explanation, but I'm not really sure what that explanation means. Multiple amplitudes.
Yeah.
Of on different frequencies. So I can't conceptualize that. I'm not sure what that means, but I haven't seen it happening before. It hasn't stated that it's a malfunction. It didn't state that it was a malfunction or an error in the data.
No, we have had some. I do want to remind people this link is below to Mr. MBB333. I like it's a great hub to find a bunch of great stuff. But if you come here and you'll see Schumann resonance here on the right, you click that, it will open up the current view of the Schumann, which right now you see we're having some pulses. And Michelle and I were talking about this, how you can see this sort of waviness.
Yeah.
That's unusual.
It is unusual. You know, we've been watching this for a little, pretty much checking it daily. I know you and I have, at least for the last, year or so. I've been following it for quite a while. I haven't seen that. So it is unusual behavior.
That means
it looks like the wavering reality, like the sec grid, the straight lines, that linear crisscross, and that, and this thing's just getting lit up and all warbled and. Is it reality? Is it showing that? Is it showing that it's showing the fluctuations, I think. And I think we're feeling those fluctuations.
And this from the 3rd, I grabbed the screen capture because I was like, what the heck is this?
What is that?
Look at that.
It
almost looks to me like some kind of hieroglyph or something.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny that you mention it because I got intuitively drawn to look up Senzar language, ancient languages.
Yeah.
Which is symbols like that. That's interesting that you mentioned that because I'm looking at that note right in front of me that I just wrote down. Yeah. And they are kind of like those old writings and stuff that you'd find on on the old rocks and like hieroglyphs, sort of.
Yeah, I almost expect to see like a head up here or something.
Yeah, it's.
But even
I'm
this,
not sure.
Look at this. I mean, you can see whatever this is, this disturbance or whatever is sort of. And then there's a lower frequency that's sort of doing this bumping around thing. This is just strange.
Bending and warbling.
Yeah. Strangeness.
Yeah.
Now
I'm feeling a little warbled.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little warbled. Yeah.
I did check the spectrogram calendar. This link is also below, but this takes you to the heartmath.org. Now, I typically don't follow this one as much because it's lagged by a day. Like you can see, today's the 5th, and this is only showing us up to the 4th. And for some reason, New Zealand got knocked offline. That's why this one's black. But you can see the strangeness. I mean, if we click on these, look at this weird pulsing here. Now, this one's backwards than the one we normally look at here, where the top is the low and the bottom's the high. On these,
Right.
the bottom's the low and the top's the high. It does go to 50 hertz though, compared to 40 on that other one. So
Right.
you see a little bit more, but
Wow. What's
but
that one? So the CGIO 6, where was is that? Because these ones are different locations, right?
exactly, yeah. So as we
So it's
look
not
from
just Russia. These are different, actually located in different places. The
from top,
GCI 1 to 6.
yeah, from 1 to 6, like you're saying, it says here. You can look right under it, and 1 is California,
Mm-hmm.
2 is Saudi Arabia, 3 is Lithuania, 4 is Alberta, Canada, 5 is New Zealand, and 6 is South Africa.
Well, look at 6, eh? Look at
Yeah,
South Africa. Holy
yeah, they're having a
smokes.
blast down there,
Yeah, they
literally.
are. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's these strange ones here that
That's odd. Mm-hmm.
isn't it? That's just strange. It's like a shift happened right there in the
Yeah,
frequencies, you know.
yeah.
And keep in mind, this is the upper, so something dropped down here. While there's some higher frequencies here. You can actually see at the top of the skull on a lot of these. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if we can see on the screen here. People might have right at the very top
That
edge.
little
So,
buzz going on.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
strange stuff going on. But you turned me onto this website right here, Disclosure
This one's
News.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah. And this is, you can see what we were just looking at over here on the left in their screen grab. It's on the left side of it here. But they try to
yeah.
explain this
And we
here.
had a blast there. So yeah, this gets updated, which is interesting. And this is where you can go to find out the peaks. Because that regular Schumann that we look at for Mr. MBB 333 all the time is just shows you like maxes it at 40. It doesn't show you how high. So this gets updated all the time and actually lets you know what the different peaks were. So we can see here even just 3.5. So that's today.
Mm-hmm.
We had a peak at 130 UTC of 25 hertz,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they gave an explanation on that
Was it this
weird
one, the third?
yeah, right here. Yeah. According to P1. Well, I don't know what P1 is.
I don't
What
know.
we
Is it
saw
going off
today.
of I don't know if is it GC1 or is it something different? I wonder if
I'm
there's some
not
kind of
sure.
legend to let us know what the P's.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe let's see. No, those are A's.
So this breaks them down too, so it actually shows you. Oh, and they have the archive. So see here, right here, images archive.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go to that and you can go back and look at like whatever dates. That's where you can find them.
Oh, I'm so glad you
Ha
told me that because on one
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
thumbnails, I was like, man, I
There you
wish I could
go.
just go
So
back
you want to
just a
see,
little
look at the
bit.
blast we had, the 17th. Look at that right there. That's, I think,
Yeah,
that 24-hour blast we had.
this is
So
awesome.
that's where you can go back and take a look at those. And that's where I've gone to go. When we got that blast, I went back and was scrolling back as far as I could go. And that got me asking, well, when did we start seeing blasts like this? And how common is it?
How
And
come
that's
it
when I found
stops
out.
here? Because the
If you
one I
scroll
wanted to
down to the
see was.
bottom, oh,
Mm-hmm.
2019.
Yeah, I
There's
actually
the
wanted
different
to.
pages. January, so you can scroll through. December, yeah.
Is this going backwards? Okay, I'm wanting to go forwards though. Let me see. It's like they stopped doing it on the.
There's the 2018
See, I'm wanting to see the beginning of March.
current. Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Does it just take them a while to
I
get it
think
up?
it's like a couple days behind,
Oh, okay.
or yeah, maybe
Couple
more. I don't know
weeks.
if
Yeah.
March is up. I would think that the beginning of March would be up there, but maybe not.
Yeah.
But that's where you can find the past ones.
But that's cool. They line them all up here, and you can sort of.
Yep. And you can go in and zoom in, like click on them and pull them up and take a look. So you can see, so you really notice, like that's a quiet week there. You really see the differences. And by scrolling through, you can see these periods when we really get these peaks.
Yeah, but the
Um,
interesting is you don't.
mhm.
Interesting thing is you don't see this weird thing we were talking about here on any
Right
of this
there.
stuff.
Oh, see, that's it. Look at that. Go back down to that because that just said, see, it shows a picture of the peak, that weird thing, Schumann resonance
Oh,
differential
and then it
peaks.
shows you the here. Let's see this.
So that must be some kind of information. This is why I didn't get a chance to look. Differential peaks. So what are they?
Ah, here we go. This is the area I was wanting to see that
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get to because I came in a little bit late. Because there's a thumbnail on the video and it looked like hieroglyphs over here, and I was like, wait a minute, that didn't look like that, did it? So I guess they
Mm-hmm.
added some to the image, but yeah, it was right in this area.
So there's a big, so they're going to give an explanation on what it is. So hopefully that may answer the questions a little bit more about what that is.
This is cool. Oh, definitely. Matter of
Great
fact,
site. It's a great site.
I'm gonna bookmark this right now.
Mm-hmm.
I should have done the main site. There we go. Okay. All right. So let me see. Let's come back to
Yeah,
us
so you
here.
can go to that one. Like when you notice a big peak on like a big blast on the regular one that we check, you can, then go over, take a look at this. It'll get updated and let you know what the max was, that really topped out. And I saw like even just a couple weeks ago when one of the last big blasts we got was at 102 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as far as how far back this goes or how regular this is, well, they only started seeing in 2014 that it went to 16.5 hertz. So it really is something exceptional and unusual that's going on that I'm really at this point, when is it going to get into the mainstream as far as more people talking about what's going on with this and what the effects are and what this is really telling us? Because you hear it talked about on YouTube and stuff, but what about the mainstream media?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't ever watch the mainstream,
Well,
so I
neither
don't
do.
know. But this
Because
is a
this,
great site. Let's see, disclosurenews.it for anyone that cannot see the screen. It is. This is also in the description below. But yeah, I guess it's in Italy. Is that what IT is?
yeah, looks like it.
Okay, so awesome. Another site to play with.
I love finding these treasures, and it certainly makes it easy to keep up with everything and get a better understanding. It's really how I've grown my understanding of all of this process, and then seeing how it actually ends up being all connected.
Yeah,
You
that's what I
know?
enjoy so much about when we look at Mr. MBB 333 is because he's been watching this stuff so long. Whoops, that he notices just like we're beginning to have been watching it long enough to know that that was odd, you know what I mean? But he's been watching it
Yeah,
for years, so he
yeah.
notices a lot of stuff. That's why I really enjoy his information.
Well, I think if you're someone that like sort of likes pattern recognition or finding patterns like in things and seeing connections in things, it's definitely it will draw your attention. And I think personally it really puts kind of the rubber stamp of legitimacy to what we are experiencing at this time. Like it seals the deal. So,
Let me
mhm.
see if anybody's chiming in on any symptoms. Any symptoms, you guys? Please do chime in if you have anything you would like us to talk about as far as symptoms. That way we can find out if anyone else is dealing with things. I know that I had been getting headaches this past thing. Now they're gone. It's like we had some kind
Mhm.
of shift where I'm not getting the headaches like I did, but other people are. So, and I did want to also mention if you guys didn't see the one with Debbie Hazelton and I, that tapping is unbelievable. I mean, it's, I even had my wife try it on something, and I asked her about it. I'm like, what happened with the tapping? Did it work? And she's like, oh, I forgot all about it. Yeah, it worked. I think it was a toothache she had or something, and it just went
Oh,
away.
is that
And
where just tapping the
mm-hmm,
areas to release energy? Oh, it does
yeah,
work.
yeah,
Yeah.
it does. It's
Yeah.
wild. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was last week, but I noticed a lot of people missed it. So last Wednesday, I believe it was, when Debbie Hazelton was on, and then of course we got into the whole thing with Joyce with the energies of just the biofield tuning and all that stuff. So there's so many different little modalities and tools that are really starting to come to the surface, which are helpful, and you gotta love it.
Yeah. You know what? I think that that's kind of what has interested me lately too, is in understanding these gamma waves and gamma brain waves, and I'm getting into um, the neuroplasticity, the fact that your brain and these waves, like how much we can actually change and change our brain ourselves.
Yeah.
through different training or through using these frequencies and what it actually does, and that you really can. There's a plasticity to things that your brain can manipulate. And I think that we're seeing the effects of those on a larger, on a real physical scale, evidence scale. That the science world isn't needs to merge more, with the consciousness
Hmm.
ideas of consciousness and the connections between them, and understanding it and merging those concepts is needs to start being explored more. um in the fact that what comes after gamma, what do gamma rays do? And because just in looking up experiments and stuff of what has been looked into, there's certainly not enough. There's not enough. There are experiments out there, but not enough on really what can be done with frequencies,
Hmm.
and how we can actually heal ourselves and change ourselves with our own mind,
Hmm.
our consciousness and brain working together. Hmm.
Yeah, I did want to mention because I know one symptom a lot of people deal with is heart palpitations, and as we transition and make these shifts, we can have very physical effects that happen to us that we really shouldn't ignore. We shouldn't think, well, that's just ascension symptoms. It's normal because if you have too many heart palpitations, you can get blood clots. And I found that magnesium is a great supplement. I used to take a pharmaceutical called Cardia for mine.
Hmm.
Like this is before the Mandela effect moved my heart to the center of my chest. By the way, I haven't
Yeah.
had any problems since then. I mean, I'll get one every great once in a while, but not like I used to. I used to have to take Cardia, and then someone said, "Hey, have you ever tried magnesium?" So I got off of Cardia, started taking magnesium, which I don't take now unless start having one or something I might remember, but I don't. So I
Hmm.
don't even think I have any anymore. But
Hmm.
anyone that's having lots of heart palpitations, get magnesium because that can help with this transition. That can help stop the heart palpitations as our DNA is being upgraded. And so we want to be careful on the very 3D physical side of things and not ignore those symptoms like that. And also,
Yeah.
somebody's saying with headaches, I definitely would suggest trying the tapping. If you missed that show last week, because someone said they had one for 34 days straight, and today's the
Oh,
worst. So drinking lots of water is another one. I noticed
yeah.
I can get
That's so,
dehydrated.
yeah, so important. That'll have a
Yeah.
big thing. And in the meditation, honestly, like I find my head will get tense, but I still have been getting all out headaches. Um, but I think maintaining a meditative process consistently has helped manage all of those things, including ascension, like pain from ascension symptoms or pain from headaches, uh, pain in general. And I was looking at studies as well that proved that uh, meditation practices actually did allow you to reduce the effects of pain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pretty Dark is saying that some people are having some palm chakra activations. So the
Itchy
palm chakra.
palms? Anybody with itchy palms out there?
Well, since I had that activation with Case, anytime I move my focus to my palms, I'll notice that they're vibrating. Or a lot of times it'll be like I'm falling asleep and I'm like, my palms are vibrating right now. So whenever I
Yeah.
notice it, it gets to where you don't really pay attention to it because it's there all the time. But whenever like now, if I shift my focus to my palms, I can feel them vibrating. So
Yeah.
something's happened with that whole thing with Case, and
I'll
it's been like
find
over a year.
I'll find too. What you can get with that is, like the wrist and elbow and stuff, and the tendons in that area. And I think it's just the amount of energy that's running through you with those activations can really kind of drain from your shoulder and your elbow and your wrist
That's funny
and
you said that because I've had
feeling
sore
like, yeah,
shoulders and wrists, and I
you
thought
may
I'm
get
like, man,
like,
I
I'll
must
get
have.
sometimes some shooting
Yeah.
pains or whatever. And but I think, for me, what I've put into practice was that, and being fortunate enough to be able to do, is just when I come up to those things, I just slow right down.
Hmm.
Because otherwise it's just so easy to wear ourselves out when we're feeling these different symptoms. It really is difficult. It really is, and it's a difficult thing and a thing to balance and master, especially when you have if you do still have the 3D world sort of pressuring in on you every day, to keep up with its demands, it can be really hard to
Yeah.
go through this.
Other
But
people with wrist and shoulders. So just, I even
I've
noticed when
been
I.
getting that a bit, yeah. So you get like the jabs or whatever. And hi, Zoe. Hey,
Hey Zoe.
Zoe. So yeah, I have been
Everybody wants
noticing
their
that.
Zoe fix. Zoe.
Zoe. She likes it.
She feels
Oh,
all that love and attention. Whoops.
that's Archer's trash in the place.
Oh.
That was Archer. I don't know, knocking things over. Okay, you guys, you behave now. Sorry about that. All right. What were we saying?
We were talking about, I think just sore joints in general might be an issue I'm dealing with right now. So, and I was even considering doing like a multivitamin or something to help
Well,
with
I
that.
started taking CBD oil, so I was going to tell you guys about that too, because I thought I'd give that a try. Where you take it like 3 times a day, just a couple drops. So I've been trying that, and I've given it like a few weeks now to kick in. So, and I'm starting to really feel. I think that's one of the things I've actually felt a lot of relief from lately. Is that joint soreness and stiffness, and I'm feeling a lot more mobility in my spine, and all of my joints. So I'm thinking that it seems to be helping. It's not a big thing. I do understand that as soon as you start taking it, you feel drastic effects right away as far as the relief of the physical pain. You serious, guys? Oh, stop it, Archer. No, not right now, buddy. Only you could see his face.
Yeah, I just actually got my the black seed oil from Pira yesterday. I don't know if you guys can see this. But
Yeah.
Dragonfly black seed oil. So I'm
Oh,
gonna
nice.
probably start this tomorrow. Trying. It's supposed to help.
Oh,
It's
cool.
twice a day, and I need to get some raw honey to go with it. But so that's sort of my hold up on not starting
And what
it
does
today.
that help with?
It's supposed to help with energy. She said she after a couple of weeks she started feeling like a kid again or whatever. So like I'll take
Oh, I'll
that.
send me some of that.
Yeah, really.
Send me some of that.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I really do try to stay in that mode every day. And
Yeah.
try to bring myself back to that and be aware of
And
it. So,
and with decalcifying the pineal gland, I'm like, oh, that's probably the best part for me.
yeah. Yeah.
So
And I'll be working on that every day for a while too. So, and I think it really is helping as far as being able to take some of this stuff in. But I say that now and then wait till a good blast comes in. I'm like, this is terrible. Enough. I don't want to do this anymore.
it really is exciting
So,
watching all this stuff play out, though.
well, it's going to be an interesting month. March Madness. I wrote it in my book a year ago when I was would do every month sort of intuitively what I was getting a reading on it or whatever. And I remember writing that last year at this time, and I'm reminded how things come up cyclically. And there's a lot of talk about what's coming up ahead of us as far as with the solstice, from the 19th, anywhere from the 19th to the
Oh yeah,
22nd, and the
the
amount of
equinox.
energy.
Yeah, I've heard several sources
Or Soros
talking about.
solstice, sorry.
Yeah.
I always do that, mix
Oh,
those two up.
I know what you
Always
meant.
mix those
I'm
up.
I'm totally expecting to have a blast on that day. It's like,
Yeah, who knows? I just was listening to the new Michael Love reading on it, and like it's kind of surprised me, like it's out and out saying like as far as the solar flash or the event being at that time. So I'm kind of a little more curious because I've been following that channel information for a little while now, and have noticed, and the reason I kept following it is because I noticed that it was predicting the gamma blasts that and the dates, and then we would see those blasts on the Schumann. So and done that several times. Let me put
Yeah.
them out of the room. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Come on now.
Do their little pitter patter feet, nails, paws. Gotta
Dog
love the
toys
animals.
everywhere. It's puppy heaven. Okay. So yeah, I'm really curious about that because with this information, seeing it line up so many other times, and for it to be directly saying, these dates, I'm curious. I'm definitely different as far as dates go. I think we talked about this before. I think we're all different about dates than we were a year ago.
Yeah. Pretty Dark
And
is
sort of
talking
how we
about.
process at it, look at it.
Pretty Dark is talking about. She says she keeps seeing rainbows. They're not really there, but I have to look twice. Not a rainbow shape, but the iridescent colors. And that's funny because I was getting a whole lot of that. Like, I want to say 2016, I started noticing it. Before I started really waking up, I'm like, why do I keep seeing rainbows everywhere? You might be walking into a store and then, like, just on the glass of the door,
Yeah.
you sort of catch these rainbow colors. And it's sort of like when oil and water mix, how you get that iridescent
Yeah.
kind of a.
Yeah.
And then I look twice to find where I'm seeing it, and I'm not seeing it. So I don't. I think it's something within us that's seeing that because I've been noticing it a lot more. But even the clouds are that way. When you like, no one notices, but when you look up at the sun, it's especially if you have some of those polarizing sunglasses, you can really see the clouds are all colorful. You'll see blues and pinks and
Oh, I know.
greens
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I know
everything.
that was always so trippy. Yeah, with my sunglasses that I have, and go out with with somebody, and I can see so much more in the sky with them, right? Because they do, and especially see the when you get in those weird rainbow colors,
Mm-hmm.
and when there's like the pink,
Yeah.
the real pink and purple tinge to everything, it really did accentuate it a lot,
Yeah.
right? So I could really pick this stuff out, but it sort of exaggerated everything for me even more. And then always whoever I'm with does not see the same thing, even more
Yeah.
so because
I've
of
been,
the lensing.
between like my wife and my daughter and just my kids in general, I always point it out and they see it. So I know it's just not me. It's just they don't notice it, and usually my wife's like, it's too bright and stuff. I'm like, all right, just put my
Yeah.
glasses on. And I think a lot of people don't see it because of that. It's just too bright. The sun is so bright that you don't look in that direction very much. But if you block out the
Yeah.
sun and then look near the sun, you can really see a lot of these iridescent colors, or you'll catch it out of the corner of your eye, like Pretty Dark is talking about. Like you'll catch it out of the corner of your eye, and then you look and you don't see anything there. It's like, what the heck's going on with all these rainbow colors? So I think the rainbow
Yeah.
waves are there. It's just our eyes aren't
Yeah.
seeing them very well yet.
Well, I think we're definitely picking up when the like that overlay of color of the pinks and purples when the waves come in, and seeing those. I'm really noticing that more when the waves come in, and like a general overlay of purple to even everything,
Yeah,
for me. But I don't think that everyone's necessarily perceiving it. But then I do see that a lot of people are picking up like pictures in the sky where you can see the pink and the purple, everywhere, horizon to horizon. And there's been lots of people catching pictures of that. But it definitely seems to coincide with the waves and affirm that as well too.
what
But
did
I
you
think
notice
there's
the?
another layer of seeing everything sort of pink and purpley
Yeah,
in general. Yeah.
have you
What were you
noticed?
gonna say?
They're talking about this more and more, but these light pillars that in the really, I don't know. You're up north, so have you ever noticed any of these light pillars they talk about? That's
I haven't seen them myself, but I've seen the
so you know
photos
about
and
them.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. Could it be plasma? It's just evidence of a lot of plasma in our atmosphere. I think a lot of the things that we are seeing as far as the lit up clouds and that is evidence, of increased plasma.
yeah. I see now. One of the things that I'm not sure about, so of course I'm on the fence about it, is whether or not this is related to whatever they're spraying up there. Because I've been noticing there's some strange effects with not only what we were just talking about with seeing the rainbow in the clouds, because some people say, well, the the different colors are different chemicals that they're using, and they reflect different amounts of light, and that whole thing is why we see such the really bright red, sunsets and things like that
Mm-hmm.
now. We're way redder than we've ever seen, and the sun will look way redder. But these light pillars are really cool. I guess, I want to say end of 2016 is when I first heard about them, and before that, I just I didn't know if it was like a Mandela effect change or if it's a change in whatever they're spraying, and it's highly reflective as it freezes. And I even tried to do the you know how they I don't know if you've seen the thing where they burn the snow and it doesn't melt it, but it burns instead and it gets black instead of.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I think I did see that video. Yeah. It's
That's
like when
weird, huh?
you try to burn a cheese slice. It's like the same thing. Nothing. Yeah. I think I have seen something like that.
Oh,
They tried to
look
burn,
at
but
that!
what?
Beam me up, Scotty. This is saying, and that's not even a saying anymore. Did you know that's also a
What?
Mandela effect? There's no
No,
beam
don't
me
tell
up,
me that.
Scotty.
Don't mess with
Yeah, he
Star
never
Trek
said
here.
that. He never said beam me up, Scotty. Never happened. It's just a false memory. You got to
I
laugh at some of
don't
these things.
know.
I
I
don't
grew up. I
actually.
watched that show so much when I was a kid. A
Do you
lot.
remember beam me up, Scotty? See, honestly, that's not a 100% one for me because like I remember seeing it on bumper stickers at the time and me asking my mom, I'm like, "Beam me up, Scotty. What's that about?" And she goes, "Oh, that's from Star
Star
Trek."
Trek.
She knew it was a Star Trek thing or whatever. And so when I look it up, you can still find the bumper sticker. So I can't put it in my 100% pile because I watch like the Next Generation, not the original Star Trek. But
Right, right.
for those who watch that and they remember him saying that, it no longer exists.
Well, it's funny that I was just I just put out so when I was painting. I don't know. I just got an urge this week to start watching Star Trek Next Generation. I loved it growing up. Like I love that show. I was a Trekkie, Star Wars, Star Trek, sci-fi. I loved all of it, and I've been playing it. I can't, and it's blowing my mind. Like I've forgotten so much because when it started, I mean, it was back in the 80s when it came out, and I'm watching it, and the very first episode has got this character on it, which I did remember, but still seeing it all again is just so bizarre. Character named Q,
Yeah,
right? And which is like a collective consciousness.
yeah,
I just watched an episode where they go into this part of the universe that they've never been to before, where thought instantly becomes matter. Like just so much, it's like so much crazy stuff of what is going on now and what we're talking about that it's been really spinny. Like just putting it on and I'm working on whatever and I've just got on listening to it. And I'm like, there
yeah. It's strange.
what? And I remember I remember the episodes, but that it's totally different when you go back and put it through this perspective all over again. I'm like, what is really going on here? What is really going on? I don't know. It's a mind bender. It's a
It
mind
is.
bender.
It really is. Yeah, people are freaking out in the chat about the whole beam me up, Scotty thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jen and Carrie remember it. Also, let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Paul
got
remembers
it's
it.
I do. Like it's
That's weird.
oh, that's Archer. That's Archer again. Hold
That's
on.
why I like to bring them up because a lot of times, it might not be an effect for me because I don't know. I'm really strict about saying something's 100% for me. So I remember people saying it was there, but I don't specifically remember it. That's how I am about the Darth Vader one. It's been played off of so many times, I can't put it in my 100% pile other than knowing that other people remember it very clearly saying, Luke, I am your father, and all of that. So I was just explaining how whenever something's played off of so much, I typically remember the times it was played off of rather than the original. So I
Oh,
don't
it
put it
does.
in my
Yeah.
100% pile, even though it is for other people.
Well, the memory issue has become pretty bendy for me as it is. So, but the Luke, certain things like stuff that I grew up with so clearly. But yeah, I mean, I heard about Luke, I am your father a little while ago, so I know about that. But I'm finding a harder time lately with stuff like with Mandela effects and like because it's like once I remember it and even picture it in my mind, then it could be.
You have the
It's a
dual
trick.
memory thing going on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I totally get the dual memory thing going on. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
So it's like, what's real?
Yeah.
What's real anymore?
And it happens a lot with songs, you know, if there's been a change, I'm like, well, doesn't he say it that way in the first verse, but then say it this way in the, or the second, you know, first and second chorus? Doesn't he say it one way and then the other way? That's how I was with the whole, if you build it, they will come. If you build it, he will come. My memory of it is he said, if you build it, he will come. Then the single man came. And then if you build it, they will come towards the end. And then all the line of cars. So I still don't know what it is now. I think it's changed to he will come now for people. It's, you know, so I don't know, but I do know it's a they at the end for sure. And if it doesn't say that, then I didn't go check it. But you know, there's this connection with all of these different effects too that are, I think, are telling. You know, they're little hints. You know, because you got
Yeah.
that guy in there. You know, the old guy in there. What's his name? Earl. The guy who does the voice of Darth Vader. You know, so there's like this connection between like, you know, there's different Star Wars things with Luke, I am your father, and then he was in that movie with a change, and then you know there's the golden calf that is now
Hmm.
silver on C-3PO, and so there's all these little connections. Everything's connected. Each effect has a connection to another effect. You know, like
Yeah.
Sally Beauty Supply instead of Sally's Beauty Supply, and then
Yeah.
Sally Fields and Sally Filled, and that's
Yeah.
sort of that picture I have on the intro shows some of these connections I found. You know, with dropping S's and adding them to other things, and
They're just like little shifts like this, like
yeah,
like, and that's, yeah, that's how you see it. Like when I was getting the visuals on, a couple weeks ago, what was it? It was the 22nd, right?
James
When I
Earl
was getting,
Jones. Thank you, Ronnie.
yeah, when I was getting all the, it was like that's how everything just like shifts. It was like all these layers over layers, and
Yeah.
it's just it's a matter of selectively tuning in. And this is where I'm coming up with the gamma rays, like that it is all connected, that these gamma brain waves affect your selective attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about tuning in. And even if you think about the Laurel and Yanny
Mm-hmm.
experiment, right? That even when you like think to hear Yanny afterwards, like you hear what you hear the first time, you don't think about it if you don't know. But then when you know, you can selectively actually program what you're going to hear. And you can, at least I know some people could, but
So I
you
can
can
with
go back
the
and forth between Laurel and Yanny.
for me the Laurel and Yanny one. It depends on the device I listen to it on. So like I don't have as much control with that. Like they think if it's on like a cell phone and it's more trebly sounding, I hear Laurel. But then if I never hear Yanny, so
Maybe
I
it's
hear
how clearly
Laurel.
it can relate the differences, the subtleties and frequency, the
Yeah.
subtleties and the frequency, and how maybe good the speakers are, or how good the
Which frequencies are coming through. So I
yeah,
hear Laurel or Yeri, but I never hear Yanni or Yanni or however people are
exactly.
hearing.
So that's perfect too, though. The slight, it's like tuning a dial. Really, it's not just one or the other. It's
Yeah,
not just this wall or that wall. There's this like phase. This is the quantum reality,
yeah,
that it's not this or that, that that we are like basically the tuning dial itself, and that we're like phasing and shifting.
yeah.
um
Now the
that experience.
brainstorm and the green needle one, that one, it's like whatever I think about. If I'm imagining green needle, I hear that. If I think about brainstorm, I hear that. It's so that one definitely works like you're saying for me anyway. Whatever I kind of put my attention on is what I hear, and I think
Mhm.
even uh, Moneybags put out a video with all of these different things that you know they put the text. He puts the text on the screen, and you hear whatever the text is. So he plays it twice, and you know whatever text is up there is what you hear because your brain reads that and perceives the audio as what you
Exactly.
read, and it's strange that you can hear it both ways. Now all of them didn't work for me. Like the began to pray and pretend to pray. I can't stop hearing pretend. That T is just too strong for me to ignore and hear
Right.
began, you know.
Right.
So there,
I haven't listened to those, but it makes so much sense. Because it comes back to this selective attention. It's like tuning in, but there's nuances. But I think that because we all have these different brainwave patterns and how we use them, and so our tuning dials are so different as well, and how we tune in. But I really think this is part of the bigger picture in how we tune into things. Um,
You know what it
I'm,
seems like though, a little bit,
what?
Michelle. It's like you ever play like a board game, like I don't know, Monopoly or chess or checkers or something, and somebody comes along and bumps the table, and it like moves all the stuff on the game board a little bit. And you're like, where was this? Was this here? Was it?
Exactly.
It seems like somebody came along and collectively bumped
Shift.
our board game we're in and shifted
Yeah. It just
everything.
went shift, shift, shift. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, no, this was over here. No, it wasn't. It's always been there, and people are like arguing over where the stuff is, but
Yeah.
who notices it? You know.
But what if that shift, that nuance of shift is is not I was it's not somebody like bumping us, just like our tuning in and listening to those things like what we're just talking about, whether we're hearing this or we're hearing that, and um either whether or not the words are up there can mold what we're hearing and how we're hearing it. So this whole perception, right, and
Mm-hmm.
how we're selecting what we're focusing in on, this is all attached to this gamma way of thinking. But I'm just curious to see, this really has to do with how we're going to be able to shift the reality, that it's not somebody else bumping you. Even with that Mandela effect, it may seem like it, but I think when we realize that we're tuning it and tuning that experience so we can shift through those what seems like very jumbled, disorganized realities, there's a click somewhere that will allow us to tune into this range
Mm-hmm.
and make those shifts. So it's not somebody else coming and bumping our checkered board, that we can be the ones that are going shift, 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 shift.
Yeah.
And it's learning to do that. That's not like some mistake or something or accident or change that's happening outside of you.
Well,
Hmm.
Scream Engine and Jen are both saying they're full of shift.
Many would say that
Welcome to
I am too.
the welcome to the crowd, to the
Yeah,
club.
yeah. All full. Yeah, full shift. Hmm. I agree. So,
Yeah, so it's almost really where we put our attention, and I
well,
think.
this comes back to what I was making notes on actually just this morning, is that looking up these different scientific studies of gamma rays, finding about selective attention, how we use selective attention. So selecting, choosing what we're focusing in, how we focus in on things, because it's under the assumption that our attention, the amount of attention that we have, is a limited resource. You only have so much attention. Attention is a limited resource. So that's the constant, that's the constant within our selective attention process, is that we only have so much attention to spare. So how we choose to focus in on what we focus in on,
Mhm.
we have to do it in a certain way. But what if this transition is about having abundant attention, about having attention not as a limited resource, but a limitless resource?
Mm-hmm.
This is I think the difference with this gamma frequency, that allows us to see things at a broader range. It allows us to function in those aspects at our brain waves oscillating at a higher function, allows us to increase our abilities in our selective attention, how we focus, what we focus in on, our abilities to focus. It's what's used for aha moments of clarity. And it's what's being tracked in the monks in their high meditative states.
Mm-hmm.
And how you come to these big states of awareness. So I think these larger states of awareness that we're working towards, what these gamma frequencies are working us towards, is a state of consciousness and awareness that is not limited in your ability of how much you can focus, how much attention you have to spare, that it will be limitless, allowing you to see and focus at a much broader scale that we've ever been able to before,
And I
on
think,
a consistent basis, not
and
just spontaneous moments of aha, but on a consistent held basis.
and I think taking that a step further, we're beginning to see that it's more interactive as well. So not just the focus and the attention and noticing, but that it's more interactive. It's like sort of like what we were just talking about with hearing something one way or the other. That we really are playing a role in not only how we perceive things, but how we can actually manifest things
Mm-hmm.
by this greater amount of focus and attention that we're putting on things. So, I mean,
Yes.
we can walk around and focus on the negative all the time, or we can walk around and view things in a positive level, see the divine in everyone, and just realize that people go off track and things like that, but we all have that spark of divinity. And when you sort of focus on that, you can manifest that even in other people more. And it's
You bring
very
that essence
interactive.
out. You
Yeah.
draw that aspect of their essence out towards you. So you would be much more likely to have a compassionate experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like the percentage with the odd, like the percentages of, because you're emitting that. So you
And it
know,
changed your way of how you treat people as well. So it affects you,
yeah.
and then the way you treat people affects them. So it's
And how about how you treat yourself?
yeah.
You know, about that too, about having
Mm-hmm.
more compassion for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I think that's where we can really, really increase our compassion for others,
Mm-hmm.
is by starting with filling that cup of compassion for ourselves first. We're resistant to doing that because it sounds like selfish behavior, but it's actually not. That's what will bring out the compassion in others all around you. That's how it works.
That really
Um,
goes back to the whole idea of what we were playing. He used the analogy of Dancing with the Stars on Saturday night's rebroadcast of a Wingmaker's interview, where you got the personal universe where you're sort of your most harsh judge in how you do things, and then
yeah,
there's the broader universe where you're judged by either from the dark side point of view, whether it's politics or religion or whatever, or the ascendant masters or the enlightened ones, that the gurus and people like that. So there's like sort of the micro and the macro, if you will, and the way we treat ourselves. But we're our worst critic, and sometimes we'll just carry stuff around. We'll hold a grudge against ourselves, or we'll lie to ourselves, and
hmm,
you really have to get to that point where you're honest with yourself
yeah,
about everything really, and then also you're forgiving of yourself, and you don't sort of beat yourself down. You sort of take the lesson you need to learn and move forward with it without the judgment. So a lot
yeah.
of times we judge others, but we judge ourselves harshly as well. And
I think that mastering compassion for yourself is actually a more difficult on a sustained basis than exhibiting and showing compassion for others.
yeah,
I think that it's kind of like meditating in a way. It's like to not think, to stop thinking, right? Um, for a little while. Sounds easy. It sounds easy,
yeah,
but it's not really. And I think that's kind of the same way. It just sounds like it's more than be nice to yourself. It really is about a greater understanding and forgiveness for yourself, and having compassion for your life experience. And I think that when you can really do that on a deep and honest level with yourself, then you don't have to try to do. It's not an effort. It's not something that you have to put in as far as having compassion for others. It really just becomes a state of being. So I think that when you can come at it from that stance, um that's what will really make a broader difference. I think that a lot of people can exhibit compassionate behavior, but that's not the same thing. Because I think I was just reminding me of the words of Jesus that you'll probably remember better. It's like, to have ability to heal, but have to show that you heal in front of other people to show these, are you doing it in front of others so they see, or are you doing it, sort of anonymously,
Right.
because God knows, it's not because God knows, it's because inside you,
Mm-hmm.
your true motivations for doing everything. Are you doing it because you like to be thought of as a compassionate, or you want others to think of you as a compassionate person? Um, so people don't say something, well, because you don't want them to say something bad about you, or is it coming from concern about what others think? Or is it an actual natural act? Is it
Mm-hmm.
just it's just what you are? You are compassionate itself, or is it motivated by an intention? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's where we can be led astray when you just start at going at it from, well, we just must be more compassionate to others. Um, you can only push that so far, because it has to come from within yourself first, or else you're just going to be coming from your intentions,
Yeah,
as opposed to being compassion.
I believe that's from Matthew chapter 6,
Thank you.
where he talks about a whole list of things like praying to be seen or fasting, and you tell everyone you're fasting or whatever, and to do it in secret rather than. So yeah, that's a whole line of thought. Doing it for others to try to impress others, and that gets back to intention. You know what I mean? What's your
That's it.
intention? Were you driven by
Simplify it.
compassion and love,
Mm-hmm.
or were you driven by trying to be the cool guy or whatever? But I think on the deeper level, once you reach that level, that you can become the conduit of healing energy, you realize it's not you anyway. It's, you know what I mean? It's you might have helped facilitate it, but it wasn't like your power that healed. It was like the person's faith that made them whole. Like Jesus would always say, your faith has made you whole. They had such faith that he could heal them that he became like this conduit of the divine God energy, if you will, that healed them. So
Yeah,
yeah,
because he was that. Again, it's taking
yeah,
the, how can you measure, how can you put in a measuring cup, you know? And I think that's the real click. It's you going between something, you measuring the amount of compassion that you show, as opposed to being compassion itself.
right. There might be a stage of faking it until you make it, maybe, but
That's okay. But as
you
long
know,
as, I think that's it
yeah,
though, is I think that if we don't show the compassion to ourselves, you're it's just going to, it's in a sense, and some people are maybe triggered by this, because but in a sense it is kind of faking it,
yeah,
because you're doing it, there isn't a motivational reason for doing it. You have a story as to why, right?
yeah,
So it's not a state of being, there's a story to why you do those things, and you'll find that you want to tell people the story of why,
yeah,
right? So I think that that's a difference. If you can find that, well, if there's a trigger to that, and you want to tell the story, but I am, because of, that's a story, and that's an intention. You have an intention to keep that storyline, that meaning, it serves a purpose. So
yeah. One of the
yeah.
things I found is helpful, like when you're dealing with yourself, is to do what we were talking about before, where you sort of look at yourself from the third person point of view, and you keep taking those steps back, and then it's easier to show yourself compassion or forgiveness or not to lie to yourself, because you're shifting your perspective a little bit. You're shifting it outside of yourself. And it's the same way, like, if you're watching two people argue, you're not really, if you don't have a dog in the race, so to
You're not
speak,
taking sides.
you're
You're
not
not
taking
judging. You're not
sides.
coming like, well, that's stupid. You're
You're
an
not
idiot.
emotionally attached.
Yeah.
So when you can
Yeah.
shift your perspective outside of yourself, all those emotions fall away that are directly connected with it, and you're able to see things much clearer.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think it really is. If you can be compassionate with this process, it allows you to be honest with yourself in a way that you may not have been able to be honest before. That's what will really open up, um, I think, a higher level of, understanding and moving past blocks, is by being able to get really deeply honest with yourself. it requires compassion, a huge amount of compassion with yourself. But then once you can do that, you can you can get through so much stuff so much quicker, and move through things so much easier, and allow yourself to be honest with yourself, to see, okay, and so you, as these things are playing out in front of you, so it's not just past experiences, but as situations come up, you're not resistant, you'll find you're not being as defensive, you're not, because you're able to have compassion with yourself and see your process, and alter and change that process so much more quickly, because you're not holding the line,
Yeah.
as far as what that story is.
Yeah. And that's directly connected to, even worldviews and stuff like that. When you can just have compassion that, hey, they've got their worldview and I don't need to try to convince them. It's not my job to try to shift how they're thinking about things, just be loving or whatever.
Yeah,
And then you sort of disconnect from that need, which is really rooted in ego. You're like, well, I want them to believe like I believe. I want them to see things the way I see them. Instead of taking a moment and just saying, can I see it how they're seeing it right now? Or have I ever seen it the way they're seeing it? And a lot
yeah,
of times I've seen things the way people see it, and that helps me be more compassionate and realize
yeah.
that I was once there. Maybe I will be where this person is at some point that I don't understand. So,
That's
once
it.
you do that, then you're more open minded to things and you learn a lot more, you grow a lot more, and maybe you're able to glean a little bit of a nugget of truth from whatever that person's saying, that maybe the whole thing doesn't fit, but you're able to get some really profound insight about something because you were a little more open minded to at least consider things.
Yeah, yeah. I can't agree anymore. I really, it really is, and it makes shifting and adjusting to all of this, and increasing perspectives, changes in realities, changes all around us. It helps you transition so much quicker if you can be more compassionate and honest with yourself, and then in turn you'll be able to do so with others, and you'll swim through this process like a fish
Yeah.
in water, as opposed to having to climb and scrape and grasp for every inch you make. Yeah,
Well,
really.
if you could jump back a decade or 2 decades and see yourself where you're at right now, would you ever have thought you'd be where you're at right now in life?
There's, to say that you thought, but that's the thing, to actually conceptualize, like to actually fully experience something. So obviously, I think that I did have moments that I could draw this experience into myself. So I can see those moments where I did uh, bring that to myself, but as an overall whole, holy smokes! I mean, just how I interpreted or functioned, or had a right to emotions, had a right to feel that way, had a
Hmm.
right to say what I wanted to say. Um, just dealing with situations, or dealing with people, or dealing with all sorts of things. I've always had a very uh, great understanding of how manifestation works in this process, and I've always looked for deeper meanings through life. But you know what? To talk about compassionate honesty with yourself, at a level that I couldn't have perceived a decade ago. And
Yeah.
and that really started like a couple years, about 2.5 years ago, about 2 years ago, really.
Yeah.
And that's been the process, and seeing the results of that. And a lot of things have had to drop away. A lot of things have had to be released in order to be able to do that. Simplified my life to be simplified in drastic ways, and for me to be willing to step up to the bat and do that, and to let it all go, and realize that it the all comes down to this is a spiritual journey. This is the most important journey.
Hmm.
um it's none of those things, those all those other things come and go. The one thing that maintains is your spirit, and your
Hmm.
consciousness and awareness, and fully believing that. And that's what this is about. So, and maintaining focus on that every day,
Yeah.
seeing that reality and all that stuff that's going on, all the noise and the hoopla and all these things, it's great. We can watch them and we can be entertained, or but let's not be manipulated anymore, because it's so illusory. it really is just a great and secret show. It's just
Yeah.
yeah,
What you
it's
got?
just a weave, and I think that we're masters, and I think it's time that we are starting to see how it is that we will actually be able to really function, how these pieces click together, how these changes happen, that reality is not what we once perceived, and I think what we can experience is going to broaden in ways that we don't even realize, like just like you said, like a decade ago, or even to think of how drastically it broadens in short periods of time now.
Yeah.
Short periods of time.
Leaps and bounds. I'd
Leaps and
I'd say
bounds.
like what you're saying. The spirit, just fundamental things have stayed the same, like love, for instance, and how you treat people, the golden rule, and things like that. But I found that things have really simplified in a way. It's like so
Oh,
much I've been able to just say, why am I carrying this around? This is so unneeded right now, and
so
so
much
really,
brain clutter.
yeah,
So much brain clutter I have dumped.
yeah.
Massive
And it's
amounts.
liberating. It feels great to, it's like, wow, I didn't. This doesn't serve me anymore. I don't need that anymore. The
Yeah.
main thing is love. The main thing is this or that. So it's like all of this other stuff is sort of like heaped on the pile, and it's unneeded, and it weighs you down, and it makes you not see things as clearly. When you think you've
Yeah.
sort of have it all figured out or whatever, and then I don't know how many times I've gone back to the drawing board, but the thing that remains
Yeah.
true through all that is love, and the more you realize that you don't need to have all that other stuff, it sort of just muddies the water in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a greater depth. There is a greater depth of feeling that we have been accustomed to feeling in this 3D experience. There is a much greater depth of feeling that is not um, based on weakness and fear, but based on strength and love, and a completely different platform. And I think that that is really what we are experiencing now, is actually stepping out when you're going from this, walking on this one platform, and put our foot out to step down again on this totally new platform. And I think we're really just setting our feet down on this new ground, and as to what this experience is, to be functioning in such a different way within this environment. You don't have to be pushed and pulled, at the tides of your emotions, and
Yeah.
you know, run all over the place. You can really release so much of these things and go with the flow in this process. Yeah, it's tiring. Yeah, it hurts sometimes and
That's exciting though,
not easy, but the process is happening.
Yeah, the
It's
shift is
a
in
very,
full
for
swing.
anybody, it is in full swing, and I think for anybody who is fully participating in it in a conscious, intended way, daily, is going to be experiencing the results of that, and the expansion of their mind, the clarity of their mind, and feeling the steady foundation of their own authenticity really within themselves, and feeling the strength of that. Like, whew, it's getting big. It's
Yeah.
getting big, and I'm feeling it. And I know it's only going to increase. If we look at the exponential rate of things from the last 2 years to the last decade, what do we have ahead of us? It's going to continue exponentially, and I'm getting quite comfortable with it. I I am. I'm starting to sort of see how to follow the clues and the breadcrumbs,
Well,
and trust this process.
I think we've got two more shows before the equinox, and I think dreams are going to continue to ramp up. They've kind of like sort of died off a little bit. It seems to be the shift from we're like in between these two moons, and it seems like things are sort of getting calmer, but they're going to pick back up as we move closer to the equinox. So
Yes,
it's going to be interesting to kind of track this over the next 2 weeks, because I think we're going to have
I think
dreams to
so.
talk about and
Mhm.
more experiences. But we need those. It's like a roller coaster. So you've got the times that not
Yeah.
as much is happening, and then times when there's more activity. And I think they're going to be ramping up over the
Well,
next.
help me out with this, guys. If any of you like to follow the Schumann, because this is part of the research that I've been looking up, is that these gamma waves, so these high frequencies, so we're looking at the Schumann going above 40 hertz, like the different sites that we showed. So if you guys are following any of that, and if you are avid dreamers, are your lucid dream states matching up with these frequency times at all? So if you guys are noticing that, I would really appreciate your feedback, because there is scientific studies that do say so. Coherent 40 hertz oscillation characterizes dream state in humans, so it creates lucid dreaming.
Hmm.
So I would love to hear your feedback on that, guys. If you are following either of those things and you're getting the lucid dreams, are you noticing it matching up with the Schumann? What are you guys seeing? Because I
Well,
think it's
with
part of
that
its experience.
with that strange thing that was on the Schumann a couple of days ago, I had a lucid dream. I didn't realize until later, but I dreamt that I woke up and I looked at the clock and I was like, that's way earlier than it should be. And I'm like, I wonder if I'm dreaming. And then I pulled my phone out and looked at my phone, which my phone wasn't even on me. I should have known by that, but I pull my phone out and it's way later than it should be. And as soon as I realized the times didn't match from the clock to my phone, I knew I was lucid dreaming, you know. So then I really woke up and looked at the clock, and the time was right in between the other two times. So yeah, there's strange things going on with that. And
See, but I think it's showing you this, like, well, it can be this time, or it can be this time, or it can be this time.
yeah, and I
Like,
should have had fun with it. But you know, whenever you realize you sort of wake up in a lucid dream, you should have
yeah,
fun with it. But I don't ever think to go and explore. I'm not like, oh, I'm lucid dreaming. Let's go to the pyramids and check out the king's chamber now. Or, I don't know why I never think outside the box with that. I always feel like I'm still stuck, you know what I mean, in my room, in my bed at the moment, and like, oh,
really.
yeah. So I need to have more
Oh
fun
wow.
with that, you know.
Yeah. Well, you'll get. You know what? You'll get there. What if you that experience, but you won't be dreaming? Who knows?
Yeah.
And you'll just be able to think about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely for me, the dreaming is still being showing. There's a serious amount of practice as far as drawing in realities and characters. And sort of like, if you could put your dreams as all these different files of settings, characters, um, in a box, and it's like so what I was finding, it wasn't last night, but there was several days in a row that I was experiencing the state of, it was like pulling files. So instead of experiencing a dream, like a dream run sequence going through, like I do this action in this setting, I have that come across this character, whatever it is, um, I was reaching in and and this has got to do this selective attention again, pulling in the setting and looking at it, focusing at it, and then putting it away, pulling in the character, looking and putting. So it was like tuning in and overlaying and playing with this completely different way to function in dreams. It was very unusual and has happened. Um, it really was picking up in clarity, and my ability to do this is a very unusual thing. And it's like, and pulling a character into being, into resonance, like in front of me, process them, and then put them back away,
Hmm.
or pull up the scene and put it back away. And this is how I was processing information in dreams. So that's been going on the last couple weeks, and has been picking up as well, which ties into the research I was doing with the selective attention. But that and the inception dreams again too, still, right? Waking up, and it's like waking up within waking up was again the theme, higher states of consciousness. We're waking up. We're going to wake up to a higher perspective.
Hmm.
Will this shift coming up this month that people are talking about it, will we see a drastic shift in our ability, um, for selective attention and higher consciousness?
Yeah. And I think as
Will our
clarity
attention become
increases,
abundant? Yeah, and
I think
limitless.
I think as our my clarity increases during sleep time and in these lucid dreams, the more I'll be able to consciously control it, consciously manifest things, and just really have fun with it, you know. And I
Yeah,
find that that whole the waking back to sleep method is probably the best. Like so, when you've almost got a full night's sleep and you wake up, but you still want another hour or two, and you go back to sleep,
perfect.
that's when the dreams are
That's
awesome.
what I'm really molding. Yeah, and you can
Yeah.
really get in there and spend some time pulling those realities in, and that's when you can really get a chance to experience that overlay, of what I'm finding is this, your overlay of wakeful consciousness with your dream. awareness, but then an overlay of awareness over top that is aware of both states at the same time.
Right.
And that's what I'm assuming. And that, I think that's those things coming together and this merging. And I know it's what we're building up to with what's coming up. The energy this month is going to accelerate this process in some way through these gamma waves. This is the effects of it. So it's definitely the picture that's coming together for me that I think, I've been working on for a little while, but it's really coming into clarity, the actual aspects of how this works, what it's really doing within us and within our mind. So I listen to binary and meditations and all kinds of stuff all the time, but I'm going to actually do a specific intention for an hour every day to gamma and just see over. I'm gonna give it a week, at least 2 weeks, and just seeing how that works, seeing if I notice any differences with that as well too. So yeah, curious on your
Perfecto.
feedback, guys, if you try the same thing.
And of course, Michelle's email is on the screen. Wolf, that's with an E at the end, .art101 at gmail.com. If you have any dreams you want to share with her or any input, and you'll be coming out with the Schumann video. You're still doing the research into that.
Yeah, I was still I got
That's a
I really
rabbit
went down
hole, isn't
another
it?
rabbit
took
hole.
Yeah, it took me
Yeah,
about twice as long for mine as I thought it would, because it was
I know
like the
it'll
more
all
you dig,
yeah. I'm
the
not
more
pushing or
connections.
pressuring myself because I'm just letting my feelers do the work here, and
Yeah.
because I think it's worth the time to make
Mm.
the connections. And I like to have some original ideas and original concepts, I think, to work with right now, especially right now with the story, as opposed to regurgitating stories, which I think I'm resistant to. So for me, it's really worth holding off to get a real original concept and idea, at least for a lot of us. Not totally, it's nothing totally
Oh
original, but
no, I
you
totally
know,
get it. And you'll be working on something, and then like all these like synchronistic things happen. You're like, why was I led to this while I'm working on this video? And you can tell that you're not just doing it by yourself. You have help from the
yeah,
unseen help, if you will, from the higher realms that gives you these little nuggets of things that you need to go with it. So it's a process,
yeah.
and it takes time, and it's nice because you can see that you're being helped throughout the process.
Well,
Like
yeah.
the whole sensory or whatever you said, the language thing you were led to. What
Yeah,
was it?
exactly. It's all there. So it's
Yeah,
worth taking your time and slowing down, not rush to like, I got it,
yeah.
because I did take a total break from doing my research altogether for my quantum notebooks, right?
Hmm.
I did, but it's been good. I've been starting to make my notes again. I've been starting to slip back into it and really feeling my way through it. And the level of the information that I'm processing is really, and how the stuff's coming through is just, it's so seamless, the synchronicities, and knowing that you write stuff down, like, well, because it's going to come up later. It's
Right.
going to come up later. Like I wrote that down today, I wrote a bunch of these things down. It's going to come up later at some point, and it always does now.
Barbara Will had a dream that says, in my dreams lately, I have been running machines, but not like at my real workplace machines, but weird variations on those machines." It'd be interesting to. You could probably email her with if you got more details to that. But that sounds like. You remember I had a dream sort of like that, where I woke up and then I wasn't really awake and all of that, and it
Mhm.
was about this old place I worked with machines. But that could be,
So much, if there's so much context questions to ask, yeah, with that, as far
yeah,
as what you're, there's so many, yeah, context as far as what the machines are doing or what's actually going on, yeah,
yeah.
in the scene. I really need to see it. Like if I hear the scene, described to me, I can really put myself in there and process it very quickly. So
I
I've
think
done
my
amazing things with
dream.
Travis lately, going through dreams. It's been very interesting.
I
The
think
ties we
my dream machines process files or books or information somehow, whereas in real life my work machine sorts mail. So sounds
It's
like
an
you've got a
example of that
job in the
process.
Akashic Records department, maybe in your
Yeah.
sleep. That's
But
cool.
I think there's many themes that highlight that process, that there is a specific process, there's a mechanical process going on,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, that you're becoming aware of. and it's being evidenced in the dreams. It's trying to show us how a different way that things work, that there is a set process, because it doesn't get talked enough about in the science aspect and the information that we actually have out there to access. But I think that we're really being told through our dreams that there's mechanical processes in place for all of this. We just haven't had previously a greater understanding of them and how they work. But they're just as legitimate as the processes you use or the mechanical instruments that you use at your job. They're just as legitimate.
So it could be symbolic, sort of explaining in a context she understands.
Could be. Well, I'm taking for what I'm just perceiving intuitively. I'm seeing the symbolism between the two, because I'm seeing the consistent themes, the patterns of the themes that come up. Yeah. And that's a consistency in theme that I'm seeing within that dream. But she's going to have multiple layers of meanings of dreams, both very individual, personal, and on a greater scale as to do with what others may be seeing. Like it's like the collective all kind of picks up on the greater process of what's going on. And then we see the evidence of that in a variety of ways through these themes and these dreams. But there's always a very individual process that goes along with it. So, but on a grander scale, collective consciousness scale, I think that's what the representations of those two aspects, those two machines, and the dream machine, it's a very real thing. So you think dream machine, is that right? It's kind of contradictory, those two terms,
awesome,
right? Because like porn, we talked about, it's kind of dream, right? And then an actual machine. Machine's a very like heavy function, like you think like that's a 3D thing, and merging those two with dreams. So it's the same thing, and then double up that context again, right? Because she's being shown a machine in the dream that does these things, and then comparatively to a dream in your waking life that does those things. So even the dream machine itself is, again, it's the repetitive pattern of these meanings, right? Yeah. Dream machine, you're merging those two things, the merging reality, and it is a mechanical process.
Sort of like the image.
It's not just a dream. It's not just earth
real. Sort of like the brain and the hemispheres and the analytical and the creative part. So you've got the machine side of overanalyzing things and the dreamy, creative imagination side. Sort of like the image I showed with the maze on one side and the more fluid brain waves on the other side,
But that's it, exactly. And you're seeing how those things, the themes, merge. And then that's how you start to see the connections of the dots, by seeing those patterns of those themes, and then you see those themes transition and merge, and that's how you really follow the breadcrumbs too. You can see those patterns; they'll just lift up, and you'll start to see that. Oh, there it is, represented over and over and over and over again, micro and macro ways. The same themes. Zoe, can you guys hear?
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we can call it a wrap
for today.
Yep. And you, of course, will be back next week with us, same time.
Yeah.
Around the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're easy going whenever we get here, I guess.
We are. We seem to manage this, though. Yeah. That's good. Keeps me on a schedule of something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Once a week. Yeah.
Well, lots of love to you guys in the chat watching live.
Thanks,
and
guys.
all of you watching later. And thank you, Michelle, for being here with me.
Oh, yeah. I hope you enjoyed it today.
Shift. Yeah, it was awesome.
Talking a bunch of shift.
We'll see you guys later. Peace.
Peace.
If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.